and Benita and Melissa, are you up here too? Here. Okay. You can stand in a nice row there. And then the other confirmand is up there in the, oh, he's waving at you, and that's Sean. So we want to welcome them as members of the 2024-25 confirmation class. Confirmation is what date, everybody? March 30th. The bishop will be here on March 30th, and that is, as far as I know, the next time we will have one service when the bishop comes. So these people will be confirmed, and we will keep helping them on their journey. They all have a handout today, only I think Eric's lost his, so if somebody has another one, we can give it to him. They have things to do. They will be handing out ballots. They will be picking up ballots and counting them. They will be making sure they remember things like, one of the first questions on their, one of the first questions on the sheet that they're going to be answering is, how many Episcopal churches have annual parish meetings? All of them, that's right. Every Episcopal church, whether it's in this country or anywhere around the world, every Episcopal church has a parish meeting. I think every Anglican church also has a parish meeting. And I'm being affirmed by that by the Reverend Dr. Martin Muhia, just waved his hand and said yes. So that's a hallmark of the Episcopal Church and the Anglican Communion. And then the other thing that is on their list, and none of them, well, the adults are in a position to vote, but the young people are not in this particular class. What age do you have to be to vote in the annual parish meeting? Anybody know? 16, that's right. So some of these people will be voting next year, and other people will be voting this year. So every Episcopal church, all parts of the Anglican Communion, and in the Episcopal Church, it's 16 for voting. Okay, thank you guys. Well, let's introduce who you are. Okay, this is Richard Middleton V. This is Eric Hayes. This is Rosie Harlow. This is Melissa Galbraith. This is Bonita Tracer. And up with his arm in the air is Sean Galbraith. There. Okay, thank you all very much. All right. And now I will read the prayer for a church meeting, and we will keep going. We had the year in pictures going here. It takes about 6 minutes. If you're up for actually seeing it again, raise your hand. Okay. Okay. So what was that? I asked Gary if there was anyone online to see it again. It is. It's really fun. It's a lot of pictures from all over the place, and Aaron Shetler sent and my husband and some other people sent them to my brother-in-law in California, and he put it together. And the choir part that you heard singing was there of 7 or 8 people when they recorded that To God Be the Glory. They recorded that several years ago during COVID-19 when everything was online. So, and then the first hymn, hymn 610, I'm going to make some reference to later on. Okay, let us pray. Almighty and ever-living God, source of all wisdom and understanding, be present with those who take counsel in Trinity Episcopal Church for the renewal and mission of your church. Teach us in all things to seek first your honor and glory. Guide us to perceive what is right, and grant us both the courage to pursue it and the grace to accomplish it through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. All right. We do not have notes from the January 28th, 2024 annual parish meeting. Aaron Shetler took the notes, and she can't find them, and we can't find them. So what we will do is present you a synopsis at a different time. We have a list going, and we will fix that, and we'll send it out. So you can't approve the minutes because we don't have them. All right. So Phil's not able to be here, so I'm going to just make a brief vestry report. Your vestry has met all year. It met in a couple of special meetings, and then it met every month except July. Does our junior warden want to add anything to that? Okay, then I'll go on and say that what the vestry does and did is deal with the ministries of the congregation, recognizing that they are the ministry leaders and that there are other ministry leaders within the congregation. They dealt with money. They dealt with a variety of other things. When we hear from the junior warden, or if you want to read the report for the junior warden in here, you'll see a lot of stuff that the junior warden deals with and that the vestry also deals with. So there are many things like that. And then I usually have the vestry do this at the end of the meeting, but I'm going to ask any vestry member to say one thing about what vestry, how you participated in vestry this year, one thing you think that it was important that vestry did, or one thing you like about being on the vestry. I'm not giving you an opportunity to say what you don't like. So, who on the vestry has something to say, and I'll repeat it so it's heard in the microphone. Okay, David's going to speak. Friendship. All right. Who's another vestry member? Oh, thank you. Look at that. Harlan's going to take you a microphone.
Hi, I'm Christy. I really appreciate the theology of it. We are the Episcopal Church, and we make decisions in community. And that is theological, and that's one thing I really, really appreciate about having been able to serve on the vestry. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I guess I've been volunteered.
Yes, you have.
And not by Betty.
Not by Betty, she said, for once.
I think the thing I really most appreciate about the vestry is it gives me a chance to get to know people that are in the congregation in a deeper way, and to find ways to connect, to work together as a team. And that's just so valuable.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to volunteer another vestry member. I see Eleanor back there, so she just got volunteered, and then Jamie after that.
I have really enjoyed going to the Requiem or Renaissance meetings, meeting people from other congregations, and I've enjoyed the friendship on the vestry. We all get along, which is pretty good, I think. And it's been very interesting.
Thank you.
Trying to find solutions for the common good of the church is what I enjoyed the most.
Okay, thank you. Trying to see who else is here on the vestry. You're just going to have to raise your hands because I can't see with the light behind you. Okay. Let me just figure out who's supposed to be. All right, if you're a vestry member and you haven't said something, raise your hand. If you have, if you've all said something, then we're good. All right, thank you. Now, introducing nominees for vestry. How about that? So Melissa needs to get up. Sean needs to wave again. Richard Middleton IV is not able to be here because we made the assumption that he would know, of course, he should be here for the annual meeting, and we didn't communicate that, so he has to meet with a client right now. And then Phil Jeffrey's unable to be here also. But those are the introductions, and you have, Melissa, where are you? Turn around so everybody can see you. All right, thank you. We won't make you give a campaign speech. Okay, now, well, you put in your in your bio, you have some information in there. So further, nominations for positions are listed below. The T and ACE funds, that's a combined role. The Program Development Fund, the Nominating Committee, and those are for 1 3-year term each. Last year, we fixed it so that everybody on those committees has an appropriate term. So the people being elected today are for 3-year terms, 1 3-year term. The TNA's fund together, and if you would like to look, in case you're wondering what that is about, if you go to nominees for parish leaders, which are right after the junior warden work report and the senior warden report. It says nominees for parish leaders. It's about the 5th page. I can't read the page numbers. And you'll see the names of the people and what they have to say. And then you'll also see, if you, oh, I found one. We were putting these together, and we had 2 pages of the additional the additional nominations page, and we have 2 pages for the website in this one, but we had them sitting out. So most of you should have a description of the T and the ACE fund and the Program Development Fund. Right after the nominees for parish leaders. It's 3 short paragraphs. Can you see them? Does anybody not have them besides me?
Tamsin,
Yes.
Christy does not believe she is on the TNA.
No, I know I'm not.
She said she just asked a question. I don't know how she got on it, but last year it shows that she's on it. So we need 2 more people.
Okay, so we need 2 more people for the T and the ACE fund, not just 1. Well, I think you got elected without realizing it, but okay. All right. This is not, the Reverend Dr. Mujia and the confirmation class, the Reverend Dr. Mujia is used to running these meetings and he knows about them. And the confirmation class is not used to these meetings, but this is not the part that's it's not supposed to work this way. We are supposed to have nominees, and we're supposed to be clear about who's been elected and who's going to be elected. So, for future reference, you can just know that. I'm sorry, what? I don't know what you're saying. Okay, Grace is allowed to talk. Everybody's disabled, but if you want to talk, you need to talk. So can you unmute Grace, please? If you have to unmute everybody, then we'll work on that. I don't know if she can unmute herself. I think you have to. Okay, Grace. We need to have Grace talking. We need to be able to hear her.
Grace, hold on a second. We got some technical difficulties. Shawnee up there?
He's up there.
Can you unmute?
Okay, Grace, try it again.
Well,
There, okay, loudly, Grace. Good.
okay. Anyway, I appreciate being on the vestry when I am, in fact, unable to come in person many times. And so I appreciate everyone's patience with that, even this morning.
Okay, Grace said she appreciates being on the vestry, and I missed the last part.
I appreciate being able to do this from home.
Oh, and being able to do it from home, even with technical difficulties. Right?
Right.
Okay, thank you. All right. So as I said, this isn't the way it should be, but it is the way it is. So what we are going to need to do is nominate 2 people from the floor for the ACE and T funds, and 1 person from the floor for program development, and 1 person from the floor for alternate deputy to diocesan convention. We have a full group of convention deputies right now and alternates, however. Robert Brown is one of the alternates, and he cannot represent Trinity Church at the next diocesan convention because we will no longer be here officially. So we need and the alternate may or may not actually end up getting to be doing anything at convention because our number of our representation number will be 2 instead of 3, but we'll see. So, is there anyone who would like to run for the T fund, the T ACE fund? Oh, yes, there are other people on that committee. You or whoever would run would end up being one of 3 at-large people who are elected by the parish annual convention. And then there are some other designated people on it. There's a vestry representative. There are the treasurer and the rector and the wardens are ex officio people. And that just means we're there by virtue of our position. The way the chairing of that committee works is that the person elected most farthest back in their 3rd year, they're the chair. And then the next person there would be 3 years for their election, and then the next person. So are you thinking you might be willing to run for that? No, I don't think so. I think it'll be, terms expiring at the annual meeting 3 years from now. Okay, thank you. All right, we have a nominee for that. Who else?
You know, the ACE and TEA, we only meet about twice a year.
Right.
Graduation time or stuff like that. It's not a whole big time investment.
Right, there's not a timing commitment. You need to eat at least twice a year, but that's all you absolutely have to meet. And then Jane Fisher, you were raising your hand? Okay, you do the T ACE fund, all right. And diocesan convention delegate? Alternate. If we don't have someone who can run right now, we can appoint you by the vestry at a later meeting. Who's running? I said I could change to alternate. I'm a delegate, but I could change to alternate. Well, you could do that if you would like to, because we know we're not going to need 3 delegates.
Anyway, you never be voting anyway, so.
Poor Judy. All right, so we have a nominee for alternate delegate to diocesan convention. Did someone else have your hand up, though? Because I thought I saw some movement. Okay, all right. Jane Fisher has ballots, which we will ask the confirmation class to hand out with her. And so yes, if you guys would get up and be helpful handing out ballots. No, don't worry about it. We have plenty. I'm embarrassed to say this, but one of the reasons that I open the meeting at the beginning of the service is to make sure we have a quorum. Our quorum is 60, And we had more than that here, not counting non-voting, we had enough people. And so the meeting has reconvened and we still have a quorum because that's how we work it.
There are also 14 online.
Oh, good, there are 14 online, so we still have our quorum. Great. That's excellent, thank you. Oh, yeah, that would be good.
Okay, Grace is online.
Grace Nichols.
Avant Research, so I'm not sure about that.
That's Mark Vogel.
Okay, so Mark's online, Avril's online, Diane Allen, Iris Wright, Michelle Heitman, Michelle J., not sure, Nancy Noel, Paula, Phil Jeffrey was on twice, so we're down one.
Okay, well, Phil and Paula might both be on there.
They both are, so
Okay.
that's 13 now.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry, what did you say? No, we can't. We absolutely, I'm sorry, but we actually have to fill those things out. We'd like to accept it by acclamation. So what you need to do is write the names of the people who are being added to the ballot. So the name that goes under Ace and T is Sandra Lillard. That's Lillard. No, excuse me, that's program development. That's Sandra Lillard. Ace and T is Jane Fisher. And convention alternate is Judy Hodge. She just resigned as a convention delegate and became. No, we don't, because we're only going to be allowed 2. Liz and Lori for the next year. They both, their terms both expire with the annual meeting in 2026. And you are not off the hook because you are a cleric from the congregation. Oh, you were? You were just recruiting someone, huh? If you'd like to do that. Okay, are we changing the name of the nominee? Yes, Jane, what are you asking? Oh, Betty talked you into being the alternate. All right. You're still, you can unresign from being a delegate. I really hope nobody who pays attention to Robert's Rules of Order or the proper running of an annual meeting is going to be listening to this beyond this congregation. So this is what you put in those nominating slots. TNA's Fund, Jane Fisher. Program Endowment, Sandra Lillard. And Convention Alternate, Jane Fisher. Now, I'm going to open the polls, and those of you who are in the room with paper ballots, please circle the names of the people that you are voting for. This is a slate, and so it looks like you wouldn't have to vote for anybody, but you need to, if you're voting for them, you need to circle their names. And then those of you online, what I'm going to ask you to do, even though it means you don't have a secret ballot, because I forgot to make the ballot like I did last year for you to vote on, is I'm going to ask you to put your thumbs up. I'm going to read the names. You put your thumbs up. And we won't have that announced, but I want either Harlan or Gary, one of the two of you, to keep track of the votes for the people when I call the names. Okay? Can you do that? So you need to turn your cameras on. All right. So while the people online are ready to vote, then the people in the room may begin filling out their ballots. And I apologize for not having a secret ballot for those of you online. Did somebody else have a question? What? All right, so vestry, Melissa Galbraith, Sean Galbraith, Richard Middleton IV, Phil Jeffrey. So Sean and Melissa are running for 3-year terms. Richard Middleton is running for a 1-year unexpired term. Erin Shetler has had to resign from the vestry, so Richard will be taking her place. And then Phil is running for a 1-year special term, and that's something that's in our diocesan canons, which allows the person who's the senior warden at the time a transition begins, if reelected to the vestry, can be reappointed as the senior warden for 1 year and 1 year only. So that's what you're voting for with vestry. And then T and ACE funds, Jane Fisher. Program Development Fund, Sandra Lillard. Diocesan Convention alternate. And I see on my agenda that I left the nominating committee off. We also need someone to run for a 3-year term for the nominating committee, which is made up of 3 people elected by the annual meeting for 3-year terms, so 1 person being elected this year, and all the retiring members of the vestry. Most years that's 4 people, sometimes that's 3 people. This year, officially, it was 3, but it's 4. And in general, the person who chairs the nominating committee is one of the people elected by the annual meeting. Sometimes it's a retiring member of the vestry. Nominating committee. And the thing about the nominating committee is if you get your work done, we don't have the problem we're having today, which is you would have people running for all these offices. Okay. Jacob Taylor, all right? You're going to have to write nominating committee and Jacob Taylor on your ballot. And those of you online, you can, for a nominating committee, we have Jacob Taylor. Thumbs up or down. All right. We technically have to leave the polls open for half an hour. So what I'm going to ask, if you're through with your ballot, would you fold it in half and let a confirmand pick it up? And Gary, if you were keeping track of the votes online, or Harlan was, you put them on there. Okay, great. Thank you. What you're going to do is you're going to take them in the next room, and you're going to count them. But we also need you back in here pretty soon. So just go ahead and count who's used one of the ballots as a tally thing. And do that. Okay. All right. What we need now on that line, if it worked, is the timeline for the rector's retirement. Is somebody talking online that needs to say something to us? Oh, okay. I don't think I have enough of these for everybody. Can you share? So Grace, turn off your mic unless you wanted to say something out loud to all of us, please. Okay, those of you online, you're seeing this timeline, and those of you in person are sharing timelines and seeing this timeline. It says November 2024 to December 2025, but that's like the overarching picture, and when we started the timeline, it included things like Christmas, things like that. So what we've redone, this is something that the Graceful Exit team came up with, and Michelle McCune did it. David McCune's on that team. I didn't know, Donna, do you want to be able to come up and say anything? Where are you? No? Is that a shaking head of no? Okay. All right, so you can see on here that in January, the rector turns in her resignation, and then the bishop reappoints her. Well, the rector has turned in her resignation, and the vestry has accepted it. I've sent it to the bishop. The bishop is going to reappoint me to be the rector from I'm your rector until I officially retire. According to the pension fund, my actual official retirement date is February 1st. However, the bishop is reappointing me from February 1st through August 31st. So you are stuck with me for another 8 months, whether you like it or not. I don't think you can make it any larger. It's, what'd you say? Online, I think you should be able to enlarge it yourself. Okay, go ahead and bring those to me, and then you're in time to hear about this. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So if you can't see it online, and are you able to enlarge it yourselves? Because you should be able to enlarge it yourself. Otherwise, I'll just read it. So that was January. I resign and retire. The bishop reappoints me. That is happening as we speak. Then on the 24th of February, I will celebrate, and I want to celebrate it with you, the 40th anniversary of my ordination as a priest in the Episcopal Church. And we're going to have a reception that day, and then we're also going to have conversation between services and after worship, and we'll have some things to talk about, and we'll have those in detail then. Then, on the last Sunday after the Epiphany, which this year is the 2nd of March, the Reverend Canon Doris Westphal will be with us, and she will be here for informal conversation, presentation to the adult forum, which will have a forum or the Sunday forum time, and that'll be from 9 to 10. And then she will stay after and talk to those of you who didn't get to come to the forum. And then she will be back at times to be determined by, to talk with the vestry in detail about this whole process and how the Episcopal Church does it in the Diocese of Missouri. The 2 days before that visit by the Reverend Canon Westphal, we will have our vestry retreat. And so that will be, it's not on that calendar, but that is Friday evening online, the 31st of March, and Saturday in the daytime from at River's Edge in a meeting room so that Grace can easily be there and we can all be a place off-site from the church. And we will have our vestry. Yes, it's February the 28th. Yes, right. It's supposed to be the day before the 2nd of March. So it is February 28th and March 1st. The vestry retreat. Then you can see that we're going to have a Sunday forum on the day of last Epiphany, and then we're going to have an Epiphany Alleluia concert in the afternoon. And then those of you who are lucky enough to be on the Kemper Convocation, we have a meeting after that. online. Okay, then the next thing you see on there, this is not all there is to do in March. There's Sundays, there are weekdays, all of that. But we will have Shrove Tuesday Pancake Supper, and then Ash Wednesday is March 5th, so the 4th is the supper. Is somebody saying something that you need? Because I'm not looking at you, so you need to send up a flare or yell or something. Then you can see that we are having a St. Patrick's Day luncheon and auction on the 16th of March. And the Beloved Group is going to make that happen. And then on March 30th, Confirmands, what's happening on March 30th? The bishop is coming. That's correct. The bishop is coming. And there will be how many services on that day? One. Very good. And what time will it be? 9:30. All right. Then we should have had everything in Holy Week in there, but what? March 30, one service, 9:30, bishop here for laying on of hands for confirmation. Then the 13th of April is Palm Sunday. And in Holy Week, we didn't put all those dates, but we will have a service on Holy Tuesday. That will be Tenebrae, so that will be the 15th. And we will have a service on the 17th. That will be Maundy Thursday. We'll have 2 services on the 18th. That's Good Friday. We'll have a service on the 19th, the Great Vigil of Easter, and we'll have a service, 2 services on the 20th, Easter Day. Then we have 50 days of Easter that goes on, and we'll be doing things during the 50 days of Easter. And then on the 1st of May is the actual date that I officially started as your rector, and our plan is to, you need to go back to it for a minute, please. And our plan is to have the party on the 4th, some kind of anniversary celebration. We can all give each other presents, or we can just eat, because we're good at that. Okay, now you can move it, please. And then you see, oh, I didn't give you the one with the line down the middle. Okay, down the edge. You can see in June that we have packing and digging out the rector's office in any form that it takes. You might. We're thinking a backhoe would be good. And I do have 4 people who are helping clean the office. We have people coming and doing it at different times, and then we have at least one more person who's volunteered. And they're not all ever going to be in there at the same time because there's no room for them, but we'll have a schedule. So that will be working on that. And then on the day of Pentecost, that's the 8th of June. I think we're going to have another Pentecost bake sale and Pentecost party, right, Jacob? That's right. And our plan is that, and well, we can talk about that later, but the plan is that we'll have a silent auction between and before the 8 o'clock, between services and before the 8 o'clock service, so that people who can't come back for 10:15 service or for the lunch afterwards can bid on some baked goods, and or they can still come back, but our auction will not take as long. And I believe Jacob is also going to be interviewing people, so just be prepared for the 50 days of Easter. Then on June 15th, that will be Trinity Sunday. We're going to have our usual Trinity Sundays. That will be my last time as your rector to preach and preside on a Sunday morning. It also turns out, and because I had not realized this till the other day, that is the 41st anniversary of Helen Ludbrooks and my ordination as deacons in the Episcopal Church. That was June 15th, 1984. So that comes full circle. I think that's appropriate. That's pretty kind of neat. And then I will be on a sabbatical, which the diocesan office kept calling a terminal sabbatical. So we've changed it to retirement sabbatical. And then on August 24th at 4 p.m., the time's already there, we have a farewell service and a party, and the bishop will be here. And he will be presiding. So that's the plan for up through, and then I'm still your rector for one more week, but I will not be in church. The sabbatical basically continues through the 31st of August. Then we come to September, and if you have a handout, you've got a line down between August and September, because at September, starting September 1st through December 31st, and then beyond that, we don't know exactly how long, we will have an interim priest or a supply priest, or that's part of the conversation that the vestry and Canon Doris will be having, and the congregation will be involved in that all along. But those of you who want to know, does the search process start before I leave? The answer is no, it doesn't. The search process for an interim rector, an interim person, if that's the direction we go, that will probably start before I leave, because you kind of want one. But as far as a parish profile and all these meetings and all of those things, that doesn't happen till the rector's gone, so that the rector is not involved in that process. This leaves everybody kind of up in the air, and it makes everybody nervous, but this congregation has been through this process lots of times. It just happens that the most recent time was 30 years ago. But there are those of you who've been through this process in other congregations. That's one reason that we have the Graceful Exit team going. That's one reason that we are looking at transition all year. That's one of the things that we'll be doing in Lent, is we'll be talking about transition, not just transition for Trinity Church and the rector of Trinity Church and her family, but we will be talking about transition in a broader way. So it'll be a spiritual journey kind of thing. So, do you have any questions about this timeline? Anybody else have any questions? Oh, you're welcome. We know you've been wondering, so we wanted to make sure you had it and had it in a visual form.
Hello.
Hey, Grace.
I just wanted to say I've been through this once.
Yes, you have, and you went through it when, as a matter of fact, it wasn't that the rector was leaving and everyone knew it. The rector died suddenly on a Friday night.
Well, after that, I went through the one with you.
Oh, that's right. Then you went through the one that ended up with you're getting me, and there are other people in here who were on the search committee. Jim Hood is sitting here. He was on the search committee. Carolyn Hackman was on the search committee. There are some other people who aren't here or who are no longer with us who are on the search committee. And then Janie Jones was the senior warden at one point, and before, there are people who've gone through this transition either suddenly or more gradually. You're going to be fine. We're all going to be fine. Any other questions or comments? All right, so Requiem and Renaissance, or Renaissance. I didn't warn anybody except David Westfall and Jacob Taylor, but if you're on the Requiem or Renaissance committee, and Eleanor actually already made reference to it, if you have something you want to say about that and how you see that connecting with this, and how you see that connecting with Trinity in general, take a brief period of time. There are 9 of you. There are 8. Not all 8 of you are here, but you may make a comment and let either Harlan know that you're going to use a microphone or come up to one of these microphones. So. Okay.
Okay. The team is unique. We are not the only parish doing it. There are,
Oh, there's a Requiem or Renaissance. No, there isn't.
there's several parishes that are doing it in the diocese. Our focus is because of the transition with Tamsin. It's an interesting group. We've met a couple of times, several times already. Once with the entire diocesan team that's doing, or the diocesan group that's doing it. And we're talking about things that we need to either continue or say goodbye to. We're talking about it, and the survey that was done several weeks ago, or a month or two ago now, provided some input for that. But we're also going to ask for a lot more in the near future. The program goes until the middle of October, when we wrap it all up, again, with a diocesan level meeting. It's interesting, like I said, and we value any and all input. Jacob is part of the team. I am, Phil, Betty, Tamsin, Jamie, Eleanor, Lucinda, John Hahn as well. So there's a number of people that you can talk to, and just let us know, what do you think we don't need to be doing any longer? Because we don't have the people, we don't have the finances, we don't have the desire to do it. And those are the big three things, especially the desire to continue doing something. You know, it's called Requiem and Renaissance. So there are programs that we may continue. There may be something that we start. But it's all up to everybody to help us make those decisions.
Thanks. Yeah, it's extra meetings, always fun, and it's an eclectic group of people, perhaps not all of whom you would expect to want to join in on this. And I think that really reflects that as folks who are embarking on this journey with you, we're trying to best represent you as possible. So the diocese, as well as ourselves, are, continually reminded that this is not coming from top down, right? This is not us telling you what we as a group of 9 people are deciding for our congregation. This is us representing you and finding new ways that we can interact with each other by doing a word cloud or by taking these surveys to figure out what's going to best serve us as a community and how we're going to make the biggest impact to the community surrounding us. So it's been really interesting exercises, and I am going to do a little bit of bragging that Trinity in our group is actually really good at Requiem or Renaissance. We even got a special note from Ken and Whitney Rice, and they showed our word cloud. We're like, hey, everybody else should think about doing this. I mean, how cool is that, right? So it's a time of change and saying goodbye, but it's also a time of growth and figuring out how to put our best foot forward. And I know I can speak for all of us when I say we really, truly hope to hear from each of you because the only way this works is if we all do it together. So Requiem or Renaissance, keep thinking about us and we'll keep meeting.
Would you like to know who in this congregation is among the 9 people? So the 9 people are Jacob Taylor, David Westphal, Eleanor McCune, Phil Jeffrey, John Hahn. John, did you want to say anything about it? No, okay. Lucinda Dennis Itoka. I already said him. Okay, so there's Phil Jeffrey, there's Lucinda, there's David, there's John Hahn, there's Eleanor McCune, there's Jamie McCune, there's Elizabeth Bowen, there's Tamsin Whistler, and there is one more person. Who is it? Well, apparently that person isn't here. They would be saying, wait a minute, I'm on that group. And the congregations involved in it are Trinity Hannibal, Trinity St. Charles, Trinity St. James, so 3 of the 6 Trinities, St. Martin's Church in Ellisville, St. Stephen's Church in Ferguson, Calvary Church in Louisiana, St. John's Church in Eolia, Hope Church. No, not Hope. Grace Jefferson City. Okay, so those are the congregations involved. So you can say that we're not all small, we're not all big, we're not all medium-sized. We are focusing on transition. I think we would have been invited to join the Requiem or Renaissance group anyway at this time. This is the 3rd cohort because they are looking for a variety of congregations. They're looking for congregations that have particular issues and or particular strengths. So in the long run, every congregation in the diocese will be invited to be part of this. And as I said, you'll keep hearing about it, so, as you heard. Aaron Shetler, right. And we were all at the meeting at Trinity in the Central West End, and we were almost all at the one that we had here, where we work with our team here and everybody else is online from around the diocese. And then our team has met twice and is about to meet again. We're meeting twice or so between the meetings that are the larger group. So, as Jacob said, you can also be glad we did something that the other ones haven't been doing. All right. Committee reports by title. And I will just read them. So we have Worship Committee, Acolytes, Worship Leader Scheduling, Music Ministry, Altar Guild, Christian Formation, and that's an overarching report with these other things underneath it, Adult Forum and Special Events, Christian Formation for Children and Youth, Bible Study, Small Group Ministry, Confirmation. We have Stewardship. We have reports on electronic media, and the list of them is underneath that, Facebook, live stream worship, electronic mass mailing, web minister, outdoor sign. And then before that, we have reports from the senior warden and the junior warden and the nominating committee. And we have parish statistics, which I'll get to in a minute. And then we also have these other reports. Those ones that I listed already were under the category of faith. And what are our other 2 categories? They're faith, compassion, community. Okay, so under compassion, we have Episcopal City Mission, lay Eucharistic visitors, share a meal, prayer and healing, pastoral care ministry, Martha Guild, Trinity Beloved Group, and Laundry of Love. And then in the categories of community, we don't have Lindenwood International students. We forgot to take them off the list. Green Thumb Squad, the Giving Garden, the Memorial Garden, Romeo, the Program Endowment, and it's not called the Program Endowment anymore. What is it called? Program Development Fund, the T Fund, the ACE Fund, and the Jackson Kemper Convocation. So those are all there. And then the last report is a set of reports from the treasurer. So they are the the report for the year 2024 and the program budget for the operating budget for 2025. Now, if there is somebody who has made a report that feels very strongly that she or he, they, whoever wants to get up and say something, now's your time and you get 1 minute apiece. Okay, Betty, please do get up and you need a microphone. Oh, no, Gary has one.
Okay. If you look in the reports, You will see my name on a lot of them. And I would like to say it's time for me to give them up. So, I'm going to ask you to prayerfully consider chairing some of these committees. There is lay Eucharistic minister, which is not hard to do. There is share a meal, which is really not hard to do. None of them are hard. There is the prayer group and the small group ministry. I'm sure there's another one. But anyway, I've been doing them for a long time. I've enjoyed doing them for a long time. But it's time to pass it over. It's time to share some of these ministries. And if we're not going to put them to Requiem, then we need to keep it going. So just think about it over the next few months. I just don't want by next year my name is on all of these again.
Thank you, Betty. Yes. Okay, now I've lost the agenda. Okay. A minute for music. John Hahn. Be good if you'd come this way so you could be seen.
I'm glad to report that the choir is still going strong. We are small, but we're mighty.
Absolutely.
There's plenty of room back there. We can always squeeze in 5, 6, 10 more. The only scriptural requirement for joining the choir is to make a joyful noise.
Yay.
But I'm truly blessed by the people I get to work with every week and provide music for the parish. I'm really excited that the bell choir is getting up and running again. We had a small but mighty group of ringers on Christmas Eve. They did a great job, and we met again last week, so we're planning on ringing for Easter again and beyond. So come join us. We're friendly. We really don't bite. And what?
Yes,
Oh,
you do.
thank you. And as always, we're still ongoing organ stuff. I just brought back a renovated reed pipe rank that we've got to get tuned up, but it's still going, and I think she's going strong. And I appreciate all of your support, and I'm blessed to be here and to share music with you week after week. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. And now we have the stewardship report, and I've got Rebecca, Jacob, and I are all going to give this report. And so Rebecca and Jacob need to come up here, and you're not always warned about everything. You can be up with me, that would be fine. So you have in your bulletin, in your annual report, you have a stewardship report, and you will see that it has the logo that we used last year called Trinity Grows, and you'll also see kind of a talk about stewardship, and then you'll see that the actions beginning in Advent 2023, there are quite a few. So Rebecca, I'd like you to talk a little bit about that whole Trinity Grows thing and what we did with the trees, and you don't have to say a lot because it's in here.
We just picked it as a theme for last year to bring life, I think, to the church through just new activities. And the activities we did were in there, but the idea was how we have so much to give, but where can we grow And I think that's all I would say is that was sort of, we did, kicked it off with the annual report last year, and it did some great stuff throughout the year. Does that cover it?
Yeah, that's good.
Broadly?
And we related to that, we had the Advent tree poster that said, "Grow in Appreciation." We had the Christmas tree poster with the gifts that was our stewardship, if you want to call it, some people call them thermometers. I don't like to think about them that way, but grow in gratitude. And then we had a brown paper tree over here that was on the wall, and we had photos and spiritual gift cards. That was grow in grace. So,
And I think I would count the volunteer
and the
thing
volunteer
that we did.
appreciation, was that, did I?
I don't know if it's on there, but I would add
If I
that.
forgot that, I didn't mean to.
Oh, because you wrote the report, so I just am thankful for that.
We're very thankful for that.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, so the volunteer appreciation is another piece of this. And the recognition of the birthdays, 90th birthdays and 50th or plus anniversaries, all of those are part of this whole grow in Trinity Grows. Okay, Jacob, would you like to say something?
I would. So, Trinity Grows has been such a blessing to me, at least, in that not only do we get to do a little bit more fundraising and fun activities, the flower pot continues growing strong, right? We've received nearly $800 over just by change that people have been bringing in, and that's amazing and wonderful. And it continues, right? And also doing things that maybe help us to grow out of our comfort zone, like doing the bake sale or having people share some stories. And I can't wait to get that started again. Because in this time of Requiem or Renaissance, it's not just a time to say goodbye to old things, but it's a time to see where can we be here in the 21st century, right? What can we do with the technology in this room that we've brought forward? And I think that Trinity Grows helps us to continually examine that as we continue this journey together. So thank you for being a part of this and supporting us as we continue with our initiative in the coming year. And Betty has a question.
I have two people that would like to talk, just say a few words about growing spiritually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Small group ministry, from
Okay, you need to let the microphone be there, and you'll notice that there was the spiritual gifts workshop and lunch, and we want your group to say something, so yes.
Okay. So,
For those of you online who couldn't hear, Betty Bowen just got up and said she has two people from the small group ministry and also from that spiritual gifts workshop that would like to say something about growing spiritually. The prayer ministry, okay.
Well, actually, Betty asked me to do this, so.
Of course she did, but just talk, it's okay.
Okay. Yeah, I was a little reluctant to start it because
You need to hold the microphone near your mouth.
I was a little reluctant to join, even though I wanted to. I didn't feel that my prayer life was the strongest, and I saw what other people had that I wanted to pray without ceasing. Not that I'm there, but one thing I've learned is that praying for people, whether it's at the healing ministry or just how we do it daily, I love them.
Thank you.
I love you more.
I'd like to add to that, that once you pray for somebody, you can't be strangers anymore. Betty also asked me to talk about the small groups.
Again, put it toward your face.
Betty also asked me to talk about the small groups.
Okay.
And we had two this year. They were wonderful. I really, really appreciated the people that took the time to join and to participate. The focus, the first one in Lent was focused on contemplative prayer, so we learned that way of praying, and we prayed together in silence also with words. The second one was in Advent, and we learned about Lectio Divina, and we used actual scripture passages, and prayed the Bible. I found as a leader, I think I learned more than the people I was with, but I loved it. And I hope we have programs next year that are just as nourishing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, Jacob, take it away.
All right, everybody, who's ready to talk about finance?
Oh, yeah, right.
This is a test. Yeah, this is what we're here for. So I looked through what we have printed out, and I think that a couple of my slides maybe got missed in the printout. So at certain points, I'll direct you toward the slideshow. But as you know, this was our first full year of having me be your official treasurer. Prior to that, I worked with Ralph Bruns, our prior treasurer, and it has been a bit of a transitory year. And we're going to kind of talk about that as we move through. But before we move on from this slide, one thing that will be mentioned in a moment too is that we do have a new Gmail account, fresh, new, and shiny, trinitytreasurer318@gmail.com. I would humbly ask that you submit your finance-related questions, queries, and requests to this Gmail, which will be monitored by more than just myself, because myself is not enough for all the fine work that we do. So can I get the next slide, please? It was implied. So the treasurer's role is largely the same. I did add a couple of points. So number one, establish working internal controls to ensure that the assets which come about from our donors are safeguarded. So the counting, putting things in bags, having people double check me, that's all part of our internal controls. To provide accurate financial reports so the vestry and membership can make informed financial decisions, kind of speaks for itself. A couple of new points would be to drive continuous improvement of our financial management. Just because something works and works well doesn't mean it can't work better. So I'm a big believer in continually evaluating what are the latest Tithely-like softwares, what are the latest financial tracking software? Is there something that works better for us? So people come to me with their suggestions. You probably don't know this, but I do look at them, and then I set them aside and don't ever look at them again. But I do look at them that one time. So please continue suggesting ideas. And also, and this is very important too, to provide accountability of our finances, right, to the Episcopal Diocese of Missouri, to the state of Missouri, and any other governing bodies to which we need to make those reports. So in terms of stakeholders, primarily, I will always be responsible to you all. You are safeguarding us with your treasure. You're safeguarding us with your wealth, your wisdom, and your work. And we want to make sure that if you have a question about it, and I do get questioned, that we can answer you faithfully and accurately where your funds are. Could I get the next slide, please? So our key internal controls remain the same because I'm still kind of evaluating things with QuickBooks, but donations are counted by 2 independent and rotating persons, stamped with a restrictive endorsement and deposited immediately. We had difficulty with that in prior years, but I'm happy to report that that is working well. So we have a rotating roster of persons who come together and we sign things together and we have a great and wonderful time, and nobody ever complains to me about how difficult counting can be. It's wonderful, so you should consider doing it too. The treasurer prepares checks. One of 2 persons signs the checks. We actually have 2 people sign them now for the physical, and one of the 2 persons approves bank electronic disbursement transactions. What that means is we have bills to pay, and sometimes if we are a little late, or sometimes it makes a lot of sense to ask the bank, hey, can you cut this check for me, to make sure that they get it on time. And sometimes those vendors keep rejecting those checks, and I have to keep sending them over and over again and arguing with them, which is a very sore subject for me. You can talk to me more about that. But what I'm trying to say is that it's all accountable. There are only 2 people who can access these accounts and initiate those transactions, and we keep that safeguarded. Again, all to keep things under control. This is a monthly bank reconciliation. I've been a little bad about that, to be honest with you. More on that later. But electronic disbursements and copies of the checks, reviewing the vendors, we notify of additions and changes to the vendor record. What that means is that every bank transaction, and this is accurate, I can tell you why it was initiated, how it happened, who asked for it or initiated it, and how it was approved, right? And we have all that paperwork available, and we're going to keep that available for any audits that happen in the future. The thing that is lacking is being organized, but that's where we will recruit more help. The vestry members review those financial statements explaining all these transactions, every single one of them, at monthly meetings. We have the finance committee do an initial round where they get the oh so wonderful pleasure of going through every single line with me on those reports and asking their questions. And sometimes we do it line by line, and it takes an hour and a half. So if you want to be a part of the finance committee, just talk with me or with Phil, and we'll add you to that joyous occasions. But we review those at monthly meetings, and the finance committee evaluates whether our key internal controls are working to ensure our assets are fully protected. In our current state, that normally means, is money going where it's supposed to? And is it being safeguarded? Is it being reserved for what it is meant to be? And we've made significant changes toward that end. Next slide. So some of the goals that I had going into this year were to kind of delegate and assign support roles, and it is in progress. We've identified 2 wonderful members of our congregation who are helping with that. I will not name them by name at this time, but I think that it's great that we have 2, and we could always stand more if you like. And we have the shared email, trinitytreasurer318@gmail.com, and that's something where we're going to have access so things that come from the diocese, things that come from our vendors, meet more than one pair of eyes, right? Because I'm only human. The process descriptions are in progress, so figuring out how we work together, sitting down together and going through that, it's a challenge to find the time. Everybody has a lot on their plate, but we're doing it. So it is in progress. The finance committee, we hold monthly meetings, typically in person if we can, but also on Google Meet, actually, and that's just because I happen to pay for that service. We held probably 4 or 5 meetings this past year. We kind of fell off for a while, I'm not going to lie to you. We now have a regular cadence established, and we meet once monthly, and honestly, it's a lot more fun than you would think to go through those statements. There's nothing more fun than looking at spreadsheets. The updating finance software. So Church Windows is great. It's not cloud-based. It's really difficult to collaborate in the Church Windows environment. QuickBooks was recommended to us, and we have completely transitioned to QuickBooks, which allows us to do more robust reporting, quicker reporting. I can change things on the fly a lot more. And perhaps most importantly for me, if I want to work on it at midnight, I can do that at my house. I don't have to drive here and do it, so that's really nice. And we have multiple seats on the QuickBooks license. It's all given to us through TechSoup, so we pay a significantly reduced price for that. It's a great fit for our congregation. We're always willing to look into others, but it is working for us now. Quarterly donation statements. I'm sure you saw one of those go out this past year, and that was the Q1 statements. And it's a miss. We did not get those out on Q2 or Q3. We will have the year-end ones. And what that helps show me is that it's a little bit more challenging to prepare those than initially expected. And to wit, the actual software preparation, the financing, and the doing the accounting bit, not too bad. But printing and stuffing envelopes is just not my cup of tea, it turns out. So I have a really hard time sitting down with that. So if you feel like that's something you enjoy doing, you can talk with me and we will make that work. There are also alternatives such as having it printed and stuffed into envelopes at like an Office Depot or something, which I've done before too. But regardless, in full transparency to all of you, that was a goal that I had. It was a commitment that I made to you, and I did not fulfill that. And I'm hoping that we can work to improve this so that you do receive those statements on a quarterly basis. Yes, Betty? We can send them by email, and not everybody wants them by email. Or does email. and it's not automated through email at this time, although it can be, but that's why, so some of them did go out through email. Not everybody wants them or can get them through email, which is some of the complications with it. And thank you, I appreciate that input. The audit and control, schedule and prepare for an audit, another miss. So we've had conversations with people throughout the diocese who can help us with that. The actual logistics of arranging it in busy tax seasons and with all sorts of changing tax codes. There was the employee retention tax credit that we needed to focus on, for example. It's difficult, and it goes back to that organization. So the controls as well will need to be revisited, revamped. I want to get things more electronic as well, so that it's really easy to call up this information. So again, additional help. I've got my 2 volunteers who are hearing this and thinking, wow, why didn't he say anything about that? And now I am telling you, so we can continue having the conversation. So if we look on the next slide, I think we'll see we continue in our multiple roles goal to utilize that shared email. It's actually helping me tremendously even now to make sure things are getting caught. And we'll document processes and simplify them. It's not scary to do the treasurer job. Well, it's a little scary sometimes, but the parts I would delegate are not scary. You don't have to deal with the scary stuff. The finance meeting, we'll continue doing that, and that will always be a goal. It's an evergreen goal because we always want to make sure that we are safeguarding your funds. Improve the finance software. Currently, and for the past 12, 14 years, we've been accounting using the cash basis. So there are 2 schools of thought. Cash basis is acceptable for smaller organizations such as these. They're acceptable for simpler nonprofit organizations such as these. Are they the, it is not the basis that is recommended by generally accepted accounting practices or GAAP. And the reason for that is when you do it at accrual, you talk about when the invoice comes, that's when you enter it in the books, right? And the cash, it's whenever you pay that invoice, that's when you enter it into the books. So for planning forward, the accrual basis is much more insightful. However, I was not really in a place where I could make that transition last year. This year, I think we'll still continue the cash basis, but we'll begin the preparation to move to the accrual basis for 2026. And that way we'll be more robust. That's what the Episcopal Diocese of Missouri recommends as well. And we'll get ourselves in line with that next year, over this coming year. Quarterly donation statements, I'm still committed to making sure that we get those to you, to making sure that if you are amenable to receiving those via email, that we set that up to be automated. We can do that with our current QuickBooks license to create and document how these statements are created and printed and stuffed into envelopes and mailed so that we can all have fun and do that together. And we just want to do that because what that does is it gives you the opportunity, if a check were written by mistake or if we're going somewhere you didn't want it to go, you will be able to dispute that within the 90 days of writing that check, right? And currently, we can do that, but you have to talk with me directly. We want it to be a little bit more automated and to help remind people, hey, we want the rest of your pledge, please. So, estimated giving, thank you. Audit and controls, we do need to get an audit done. We haven't had an audit done here at Trinity Church for quite a long while. And to help with that, we want to make sure that we have the paperwork assembled, everything's organized. If you've been back in the counting room, you see I have some bank boxes going. We're starting that process, right? We're making room, we're keeping things organized. It's gonna take help, but hopefully we can create an electronic system of documentation which will allow for better control as well and let us know when it's time to take advantage of the shredding events that happen in St. Charles County and shred some of our old financial paperwork. And finally, stewardship, to combine efforts with all these various groups to help with our outreach, communicate with different groups. And why is that in the treasurer bucket? I will explain. I have all these reports. I keep track of the funds in the various accounts, and then I don't tell you If you lead a group, I don't tell you what's in your account. Doesn't really make sense, right? But if I do tell you that, then that gives you the opportunity to talk to people and say, hey, I need a brand new organ console, so we need to do some fundraising. I don't know. Or, you know, if you're in the community garden, wow, I need a garden tractor because we need to till things and also maybe plow the parking lot ourselves. But the only way this works is if I tell you that information so that we can make responsible spending decisions as well. So that's why this is on here. I don't know how to do it, so if you run a group, come talk to me. Tell me how you would like to receive that information, and we'll make it work. So this is a very small screen, but you can see it in your paperwork. This is our statement of financial position. And at the end of the day, we have $130,861.12 in total assets. $78,000 of that is in the Program Development Fund, which is held in a mutual mass market account, or the Calvert funds. What that means is that the money is there, it's invested, and it continues to grow. It generates its own revenue, and that's a nice thing if we can leave it alone. There's more on that in a little bit. You'll also notice that we have 3 Regions accounts up there. We have the Regions checking account at $20,000 at the end of December. That represents all our operating funds. Those are funds that are used to help the church run. We have the designated funds below that. That's a new account we created this year to hold our designated and restricted funds separately from our operating. And we have the director's discretionary account. Those are funds that have been donated by our donors to be used at the director's discretion in cases of emergencies that happen with people. So that's where it should be. This level of buckets allows us to ensure that none of the funds you donate toward the organ are used for the electric bill. It's very important that we have this. It's brand new, and that's a step we took to make sure we have good internal controls. This is a summary version, but you can see that we still carry over negative balances. What those represent is we took funds out of the operating budget that was in excess of what we currently had, and so that still needs to be resolved. That will be done, and that's something that we continue to look into as well. A lot of that is going back and just tracking that donor information. Why was this gift given? How did we use the gift? Let's make sure that everything was done properly. And that's why we're in QuickBooks now, so that it's a lot easier to do that. Let's see, I think I'm ready for the next slide. This is the larger, more detailed statement of financial position. So this holds all the funds that we are stating that we have backed up and where they are designated. So you'll see things like Lindenwood Outreach has $1,000 in it, as an example. Certain funds, such as the Community Garden Balance, you can see where that fund stands and what can be used for the community garden, right? I don't want to go into this in super great detail, but if you have any questions about it, please feel free to contact me. Next slide, please. Let's continue so we can move on to the next one. The budgets versus actuals. How did we do against our budget this past year? So, and I'm just going to go up here and point a little bit. You can look on your own paper. So if you look at this top line, that's the operating revenue. The majority of that comes through our estimated giving. There's some loose plate that goes into there. You'll notice that we had $300,757 against a budget of $218,000. Parts of why that happened would be that we had a pipe burst, so some of that is reserved to repairing the basement and is being used for that purpose. There are various charitable gifts that come through. None of that is reflected into designated revenue, though, right? We keep that separate. On that line, we had a budget of $9,900 for designated revenue. We received nearly $27,000. A lot of that is for memorial garden gifts. These are not items that we can utilize outside of the purposes for which they were donated. And then finally, pass-through fund revenue. A lot of that is tithely donations. A lot of our donors will cover that service fee. There are people who donate for very specific items, such as the Good Friday offering, which goes out to a different organization. Overall, we had nearly over 94,000 above what we had budgeted, which is really wonderful because we expected a negative $40,000 deficit this year, and we didn't have to deal with that. Again, a lot of this is for designated purposes or is for the basement repairs. So it's not something where, oh, wow, we get to add $60,000 to our coffers. Rather, this is just how the chips fall in an organization such as this, which has to remain very flexible. You can see on the expenditures where we kind of landed. We were able to cut down on some expenditures. We had to spend a lot more for building maintenance, for example. Again, pipe burst. You got to spend money there. One thing I wanted to point out, and as a particular point of pride to me, is that our building maintenance, nope, not that one. Well, I guess it's roped into there. So a lot of times I get approached and asked, well, where can we cut spending, right? There are two schools of thought. You can either draw in more donations or you can cut your expenditures. One thing we did was, and I heard complaints about this from a different group, but that's okay, our parking lot. You'll notice that was very heavily snowed in for quite a while. And that's not ideal. But what that turned up is that we reviewed our snow removal statements from last year and realized that we just simply cannot afford to spend $5,000 a year on removing snow, particularly from last year where it was a dusting about this thick. So as soon as we told this to our vendor, we got 3 feet of snow, naturally. It had to happen that way. But what we found out is we have other vendors who will do it for, they did a snowplow push for $250 versus the $1,000 that we were paying for each push for our last vendor. So I take that as a win and as a reassurance to you that we are listening. You told us look for areas to cut spending. It was painful. It really hurt me to see how much snow was out here and how much ice, and hurt my back to go out there with a pickaxe to break up some of that ice. But we want to be good stewards of the donations you give to us. I'm ready for that. No, it was Phil, David Westfall. Those guys are the heroes. I was just out there with a pickaxe. Yep. Oh, yeah, Rosie was out there. That's right. And Marty came, too. She came for a party. She left. She went out and shoveled snow instead. and Rosie was out there, too. We came up. That was exciting. So overall, I would say that we held to our budget in a lot of areas where it counts, like the insurance, the office administration line. We have been working hard to try to save money where we can. So, we're doing pretty good. There is definitely room for improvement. But if we go to the next slide, we'll start talking about our 2025 budget. And this kind of bleeds into the next section, which is why it's okay I'm over time right now. So, so on the left-hand side, you can see we had our 2024 budget, and it's very color-coded. You'll notice that in our 2024 budget, we have lines where we expected people to donate for designated funds. We had expectations for people to donate to restricted funds. And if we go back one slide, actually, Harlan, sorry, you'll see that on the restricted funds, those funds that we budgeted for, they did not materialize. And so as I reviewed our budget, we can go back to the next slide. It really struck me that how can I base an operating budget on this idea that people are going to donate to specific funds? I cannot control, right, going back to internal controls, where people want to earmark their donations. I can make requests, but I can't say, oh, people are going to donate $7,000 to purchase a chair drive. Then when it doesn't happen, it looks like we have a deficit to our operating, but it's really not a deficit at all. We just thought people might donate, and that wasn't on the docket. So all of that is to say, this year, I have recommended and we've approved removing those lines. We really need to, when we're talking about operation of the church, we need to talk about things that are in our control, asking for funds to help power the lights, to allow us to continue operating. So we have operating budget of $210,000. That's less than what we planned for last year. Why is that? People are passing away. Economic times are hard. We can't expect that people are just going to be able to dig deep and donate more and more, even the same amount. We've got to be realistic. So our total income for this budget is reduced by $26,000 to reflect, this state of affairs. However, we're also going through a transition, and I don't think of this as a blessing, but it helps our budget sheet that a retirement that's in the works is going to save us significantly on our compensation and payroll. I'm not sure that's a good thing, but it is helpful for the numbers, so that's all I have to say about it. For a short time. A backhanded blessing. I like it. Now, this number could fluctuate because we will have interims. We will need to pay folks, but until we have those discussions, it's very difficult to make that prediction. So please know this is and you'll see the approved budget in a moment, and you can always ask for a copy. We're not hiding anything here. That can change, right, as we understand more about the future. It doesn't have to be set in stone. And things that went down, building maintenance, we're trying to cut down on snow removal expenses. We're trying to find areas where we can save some money, where Sean and I can go out and mow a lawn or something. I don't know. But we want to help this church thrive and serve the ministries we're called to do. Church committee and special projects, that reduction is not to say that we're not going to do those things. It's to say that that has to be decided not by some guy at a computer typing away in QuickBooks, but by the committees themselves. So I cannot predict the expenses that will be applied in the community garden, for example. If there's fencing that needs to be needed, how would I know that? So that's something that will be driven by the committees themselves. The insurance we can predict, and we've included a line for it. We expect it will go up, right? All our vendors' prices go up. They don't ever go down, unfortunately. And that's just the way it is. The office administration, we feel, can stay roughly the same. Serving God's families expenses, again, these are all coming from designated funds. So with increased reporting out to the groups, they will be able to manage their funds better. And so that will fall more on those various groups. The utilities, we are predicting that those will increase for the year 2025. Again, all of our vendors' prices go up over the years. They do not go down. And so we have accounted for that here. Communications, we are better tracking the various accounts that we need to maintain. We have also made the decision to just to cease our subscription to certain accounts like GoToMeeting. Again, all in the name of efficiencies, of ensuring that we're here for a very long time. But overall, you will see, and I'm happy to report, that we are predicting a $4,000 surplus budget this year. So quite a big step up from a negative $40,000 deficit. And I thank all of you for the hard work you put into that. A lot of that does come from the compensation and payroll expenses, but honestly, I'll take what I can get. So thank you. And I'm not sure if I have another slide. Do I have one more? So this is the this is the more expanded budget. It is not down to the line item. So what that means is that I've taken the large categories and put them up here so you can see exactly where this is coming from. Our $210,000, purely our estimated giving, our stewardship drive. Anything that goes beyond that, I assume, will be earmarked toward different designated uses. And so that's why, as well, on the expense side, we've taken out a lot of the expenses that don't pertain to the operation of the church so that we don't confuse anybody. We want to give you an accurate idea of how we're doing operationally. And I think that this is about it. So in operations and keeping the building on, the insurance paid, taxes paid, all that, we are breaking just about even. To do more, those funds have to come from donations or from us going out in the community and asking them to help us with these purposes. So I'm delighted to say, yes, I do think our light and heat will be paid for the next year. And for us to continue to do more, we will have to continue our journey into Requiem, or not Requiem, in Renaissance. That's the growing part. And that's my treasurer's report. Thank you.
I need to ask for the approval of the treasurer's report. Somebody needs to move and somebody needs to second. All in favor, aye. And those of you online, just wave at Gary or Harlan or Sean, and we're not counting the votes. So, all right, aye. Opposed? Abstaining? All right, thank you very much. And then, as far as the 2025 budget goes, we receive it as the annual meeting. The vestry is who votes it because they're the people who have to administer it. And as Jacob said, it's not set in stone. It is a working document. It's a map rather than a rigid something. So I'd like you to vote to receive the budget. Is there somebody who will move that? Okay, is there a second? All right, all in favor of receiving the budget, remember you're not approving it, you're receiving it, says you've seen it. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Jacob.
We have one question online for
Okay.
Jacob. Jacob, what's the difference in our enrolled membership between last year and the year before? Do we know?
Our enrolled membership is approximately the same as it was last year. There's a little bit in the statistical page about that, and we can take that for a note to give you an exact information other than right this second. Will that do?
I guess it will have to at this
Okay,
point. Thank you. Can you give us just an approximate number? Are we in the 300s, the 400s,
No, we're
200s?
not in the 300s. We're under 200,
Okay, thank you.
so. We're done with the, oh, okay.
I wish to congratulate you on what's going to happen later on. And here is a card from everybody.
Oh, thank you. Thank you all very, very, very much. And I have to say, I'm glad I'm saying goodbye, but not yet. You know, I'm glad we're able to do this and know that it's the last time, but also know that with, you know, as we hope things will be, we'll be back together next week and for a while yet. So thank you. I am sorry this meeting has gone so long. Part of it is it didn't start when I said it would be. Let's see, Phil is not able to make his senior warden remarks. David could have some brief junior warden remarks. And then Rebecca, you can just talk about that star. Okay. David has no brief junior warden remarks. He only has an hour-and-a-half speech that he's not going to give, right? Okay, so the information from the junior warden is here. And he already told you what he thinks about the vestry, which is that he appreciates the friendship, and then he talked about Requiem and Renaissance. So you've heard actually quite a bit from the junior warden today. All right, Rebecca, if you could find a microphone and just say a little bit about that star there, that would be wonderful.
Okay, it's time again for us to give our pledges for the year, and as it sounds, we're the driving force.
Estimated
giving. Yes.
Because pledge implies that you're going to do it or you're going to feel terrible. Estimated giving is, this is what I think I can give, and I'll do the best I can. I'm not going to, feel guilty or feel like you're out to get me if I can't do that.
I was raised Catholic, so I'm okay with the guilt. But I do buy that. You give what you can, and that's okay. But it's our job to give of ourselves in all the ways, and that's why Tamsin chose the Epiphany Star, because it talks about gifts, giving what you can without guilt. And today is the start of the kickoff that we hope to get all of your estimated giving cards. And when you do give your card, I did it today so I could be a role model. That board over there is our reminder to keep this going, and there's some star stickers on the table next to it. So when you give your card, you can fill out your name on the star and stick it up on the board and feel proud that you made your announcement of giving, or whatever I want to call it. Anything else? Tamsin and I talked a lot about the theme behind this, and one of the phrases that we both like, and that's in the letter that she wrote, is what you are is God's gift to you, and what you make of yourself is your gift to God. And that's one of my favorite quotes. And that comes from us in all the ways, which is financially or physically or spiritually. And so we're thankful for all that you can give in any way possible. But this way is in terms of some cashola babies. Good enough?
Good enough. Thank
Okay.
you very much. And then you will have received last night by email, if your email works for you, you will have received the letter that you got handed today, has a little star on it, has a facsimile of the card that you also received today. And the letter goes into detail that I'm not going to go into detail about now, but today, if you happen to know what you're going to be giving, you can put a star up like Rebecca just did and leave a card, or if you can bring it back next week on the Feast of the Presentation, which is the presentation of Jesus in the temple at 40 days of age, that would be a great thing, and we would love to have that. But most of all, we want you to be prayerful about how you're deciding what you're giving monetarily, what you're giving, and that's wealth, what you're giving in wisdom, which is your time, or rather your talent, and then what you're giving in work. So, Betty keeps coming here and going away. All right. Okay, if they just fold them in half, and we should have had a basket. I wasn't really expecting anybody to be able to do that today, but if you are, you can. Otherwise, we'll have a basket later. All right. I keep losing the agenda. There it is. Because I can't read the board from the edge here. All right. We're going to sing a hymn, so you can all stand up and open your books to hymn 500, the hymnal to 516. Hymn 516. I just want to thank the vestry and the staff. The vestry of Trinity Church is an amazing group of people, and it has been, over the years, a tremendous gift to be able to share that with all of you. As you heard earlier, the vestry really makes decisions. And the way that an Episcopal church works is that the vestry has particular charge of things, and the rector has particular charge of things, and we have to work together to make the church work. So I want to recognize all of the vestry members, and if you are a vestry member, if you'd go ahead and stand up. I was going to have you keep standing, but let's go ahead and just, if you're a vestry member, stand up. If you've ever been a vestry member, stand up. Look at that. Applaud yourselves, please. And if you've been a vestry member in another church, you can stand up. All right. Thank you. And then when it comes to Trinity Sunday, I will say more to the staff and the vestry, but particularly the staff. And what I'm going to say now is that it is a pleasure to work with John Hahn and Michelle Heitman and Ashley and Betty Bowen. And you all know how Betty works, and she does the same thing to me, and it's very, very good. She keeps us all on track. And John and I have done all kinds of things, including, if you notice, the tables were set up when you got downstairs. The actual place of the tables, John figured out, and he and I moved them. So we do a lot of furniture moving in the background. Michelle has to put up with my saying, oh, let's do this. No, actually, I'd rather do that. No, or something like what happened today, which is she had the right hymn in for a communion hymn, and I told her to change it. We neither of us got, other than the number, that final hymn, but she puts up with a lot. So I just want to thank them. And then, as I said, Betty, who's just left, is just a treasure to work with. So thank you to all of them, and you can applaud them with me. Everybody was elected in the parish elections, and we have one more hymn, and that is hymn, I had it. What? It is Rejoice Ye Pure in Heart, and I had my prayer book open, hymnal open to that, and OPQR, Rejoice Ye Pure in Heart. That is either 556 or 557. And so it's one last hymn to sing, and then you're free to go. And some of you, I will see you at 5 o'clock. What was that? Yes, we can do one verse. What? 556. 556. Actually, can we do two verses, the first verse and the last verse? Will you guys do that? Okay. It'll take about a minute and a half. adjourned. That was our final prayer, was that him?